It looks like the police are trying to cause a scene. Look at that. Look what they're doing. Look what the police are doing. What are they doing? What are the police doing here?
One of the things that makes America the greatest country on earth is, of course, our First Amendment, our right to free speech. And by the way, this is not shared with many other countries, including countries we thought had that same right, like the UK. They are now a fallen state because apparently now you can't even fly a flag without the possibility of being arrested. And you can't make jokes on Twitter without the possibility of being arrested. And you definitely can't come out against mass immigration, illegal immigration, by the way, without the possibility of being arrested. And this is exactly what's being discussed today by Nigel Farage over in the House of Representatives. But before we get to these clips, don't forget to like and comment and subscribe on this video so we can get through the algorithms. Here we go.
I imagine that in a hearing about threats to freedom of speech abroad, we might hear from a Russian dissident about Putin's massive violations of political freedom, or the death of Alexei Navalny in prison, or perhaps a Chinese pro-democracy activist about President Xi's attacks on free speech in Hong Kong, Tibet, Xinjiang, or the persecution trial of Jimmy Lai. Or maybe a journalist about the Saudi Crown Prince's assassination of Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post writer who demanded freedom from religious persecution and oppression in Saudi Arabia. But no, the dictators of the world have got nothing to fear from this hearing. The Republicans called it to attack our democratic allies in Europe. The star witness is not a human rights leader like Navalny, but a far-right, pro-Putin politician who leads the UK Reform Party, a party that has 4 members out of 650 members in the parliament. He calls England an authoritarian regime, while saying that Vladimir Putin is the world leader he admires the most. But this hearing's just a drive-by hit against a strong Democratic ally to benefit a Donald Trump sycophant and wannabe. But it's even worse than this. Not only are our colleagues ignoring intensifying repression in the world's dictatorships, they're also trying to distract the world from the attack on freedom taking place right here in America.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chairman Jordan, for inviting me here today. And it turns out, with news in the last 48 hours, to have been really rather timely. I'm delighted to reacquaint with the charming Mr. Raskin. It was delightful testimony you gave me earlier on with your speech. But hey, that's fine. You can say what you like. I don't care, because that's what free speech is. And in a sense, this has all been going wrong now for a couple of decades. We've kind of forgotten the Voltairean principles that we'll fight and defend to the death your right to say something that we fundamentally disagree with. That is the absolute foundation, if you think about it, of free speech, of democracy, of living in freedom. It's kind of why we fought 2 world wars at massive, massive cost to defend that very principle for ourselves and for many, many others around the country. And I first became worried about all this with cancel culture. You know, the idea that we can't have this speaker go to a university because some people might be offended by what he or she have to say. And it's extraordinary that, you know, I come from the land of Magna Carta. I come from the land that gave us the mother of parliaments. And it doesn't give me any great joy to be sitting in America and describing the really awful authoritarian situation that we have now sunk into. J.D. Vance did us all a service at the Munich Security Conference back in February this year. He really got this debate up and running, and it's a vital one. We've run on since then. The Online Safety Act was put in place by the last Conservative government. I don't doubt for a minute they're good intentions, but sometimes the road to hell is paved with those good intentions. And we are now where we are. We have a couple of very famous cases. We, of course, have Lucy Connolly, who put out an intemperate tweet after the savage murder of those 3 beautiful young girls, she herself, a mother who had lost a child. It was intemperate, it was wrong, but she removed it 3.5 hours later, sentenced to 31 months in prison. She's now out, having served 40% of the time. I wanted to bring her with me today as living proof of what can go wrong. Sadly, the restrictions that have been put on her banned her from making the trip, which is a very, very great shame. And we, of course, have the extraordinary events that we understood yesterday of Graham Linehan, the comedic writer, and he put out some tweets months ago when he was in Arizona, and months later he arrives at Heathrow Airport to be met by 5 armed police. Armed police, not a big deal in the USA, a very big deal in the United Kingdom. 5 of them. And he was arrested and taken away for questioning. He's not even a British citizen. He's an Irish citizen. This could happen to any American man or woman that goes to Heathrow that has said things online that the British government and British police don't like. It is a potentially big threat to tech bosses, to many, many others. This legislation we've got will damage trade between our countries, threaten free speech across the West because of the knock-on rollout effects of this legislation from us or from the European Union. So I've come today as well to be a klaxon, to say to you, don't allow, piece by piece, this to happen here in America. And you will be doing us and yourselves and all freedom-loving people a favour if your politicians and your businesses said to the British government, you've simply got this wrong. At what point did we become North Korea? Well, I think the Irish comedy writer found that out 2 days ago at Heathrow Airport. This is a genuinely worrying, concerning and shocking situation, and I thank you for the opportunity to come here today.
So here's Nigel Farage giving the warning to America, right? UK has given up its free speech, and it could have a detrimental effect on companies or countries doing business within the UK. Already, we've seen a lot of strong arming from the UK government on a lot of our American online companies for not enforcing these speech suppression edicts. Okay, and that's exactly what Nigel Farage is warning about. But Jamie Raskin, what does he care about? Oh, this whole symposium here on free speech. Why aren't we talking about Russia or China or North Korea or these places in the Middle East, right? Why not talk about all of them? Because we know how bad they are. We expect it from dictatorships and oppressive governments, right? What we don't expect it from is from the UK and Canada, right? These places that are supposed to be pro-freedom, pro-democracy, but guess what? They're not pro? They're not pro-free speech. If you express yourself in a manner they don't agree with, they're going to put you in jail and give you fines. And of course, all of us on the right, we warned about all of this stuff well in advance because we know exactly what's coming down the pipe. They've been trying to get hate speech laws, etc., passed here in America. And if we do that, guess what's going to happen? We're going to have the exact same result where the people in power are going to make some very bad decisions about freedom. But rather than take heed of the warning given by Nigel Farage, what's Jamie Raskin going to do? He's going to come out and say, oh, Nigel Farage, you're a Donald Trump sycophant. You really love Putin and all this other garbage, all right? And he even makes a dig about Nigel Farage's UK Reform Party and says, oh, you've only got 5 seats in the House, all right? However, in case you didn't know, things are not going very well in the UK right now. And there's a whole bunch of unrest among the UK citizenry against, of course, the wide open borders they have, the speech suppression, and of course, the lack of interest in roaming, grooming gangs from all of these people from the Middle East. But what Raskin doesn't mention is that, hey, if you look at the projections down here, yes, the Reform Party currently has 5 seats in 2024, but look at their projections. They're going to have 179 seats in the lower house and 368 seats in the upper house, making them the supreme majority in that country. So who Jamie Raskin is talking to right here is potentially the next prime minister of the UK, all right? Because his party is going to take control. And why are they doing that? Because the rest of the parties, including the supposed Conservative Party, have not been protecting the English citizenry. And it turns out, apparently, that when a whole bunch of people who thought they were free in a country find out that they're not, they're going to turn against the established government, which, of course, is why you're going to see these crazy numbers happen in the UK in their upcoming elections. And I hope they get through. I hope all this stuff gets repealed. And I hope they actually establish a First Amendment equivalent over there in the UK to stop this craziness from happening. And I also hope that the American leaders in this country take heed as to what's happening over there. We do not want to enact any additional limitations on our free speech. Otherwise, we're all going to end up in jail because at some point in your life, you're going to offend someone else. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.